my channel or welcome to my channel. My name is Mouse and I talk about books and book related things. And today I'm getting rid of books. If you're new here, then you probably know that I don't generally get rid of books, or I'm very particular about the ones that I do get rid of. However, it's been quite some time since I've gone through my bookshelves and thought, do I really want to keep this or not? So for part of cleaning things up, clear your shit for the readathon, I think that it's time that I get rid of some books. All of these I've read except for some of the nonfiction ones, and some of the nonfiction ones were gifts. So I'm actually going to start with those because they are the fastest to go ahead and get through because I know no one really cares that much. The first one is this book from the 1970s. It is illustrated yoga. It's really old and it was a gift. Nothing wrong with it. It's just not something I want to keep. If I had a coffee table, then maybe, but I don't. And so, goodbye. The next one is The Financial Diet, A Total Beginner's Guide to Getting Good with Money by Chelsea Fagan. This is an amazing book, actually. The illustrations and stuff are really good. There's even recipes in here. And it's kind of just like all of the things that you wish that school had taught you, but they didn't. So I really recommend the book. However, I don't really need it, and she has a blog that you can use the information from. And a blog I can access digitally, and it doesn't take up space on my bookshelf. This is a Christian book that my mom got me about prayer. Teaching Yoga by Donna Farhi. I have this book because I needed it for my yoga teaching certification. I'm never gonna look at this book again. And Roar by Stacy T. Sims. How to match your food and fitness to your female physiology for optimum performance. This was a really good book for when I was recovering from my eating disorder and also when I was preparing to do powerlifting, because most of the science that was available was mostly geared towards men and male bodies, and I am not born a man. So that made that information not quite as useful to me, and this provided really good information, and none of it was restrictive diet culture information. It was how to perform your best self and the ways to schedule your training around that, which was really cool. So that's all the nonfiction books. Now we're going to talk about the series that I'm going to be getting rid of. Whole series. The first one is the Wrinkle in Time series. I'm currently reading the last book, but I'm going to finish it this week. And once I finish it, I will be getting rid of the entire series. Not for any negative reasons. I've enjoyed the books. However, I don't like owning paperbacks, for one, and for two, I would only want to keep the Wrinkle in Time. I would not want to keep any of the rest of the books, so yeah. Next is the Spend the Dawn series by Elizabeth Lim. Very good books, extremely good books. I won't read them again, and they're romance focused, which that's not, I don't like romance, so that's not my vibe. Very good books, and Spend the Dawn is actually one of the first books that I bought in the middle of being on BookTube without anyone recommending it to me. I saw it in the bookstore and I picked it up and bought it on my birthday. Or no, Unravel the Dusk. I bought the sequel and then I read the first book. But again, very, very good and interesting. It's just not something that I'll pick back up again. Then we have the two graphic novels I'll be yeeting. The Fire Never Goes Out by Noelle Stevenson. Again, it's a really good series. It's a really good book. Well illustrated, and there's a chance that I don't actually unhaul this. It's kind of on my maybe list. But it's a memoir of her life, and I found it really interesting and intriguing as a fellow queer person. But is it something I'll pick up and look at again? I don't know. And then we have The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. Again, wonderful book, but I'm not going to pick it back up again. So a lot of the time if I look at a book and I just only have it because I think it looks pretty on my bookshelf and not because I'll genuinely enjoy it, again, it'll get to sit there for about 6 months before I decide, no thanks. I also want to be really transparent that some of these books I bought this year and some of them I didn't buy this year, and so I'm not trying to be someone who buys a ton of books just to unhaul them a month later, and I also am trying to be someone who reads all of her books. And that is not a dig at anyone. That's just how I am trying to handle my own business right now. So then The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. It's tabbed to Hell and Back. This was the first book that I bought before joining BookTube. I had made the decision to join BookTube as I was finishing this book because I wanted somebody to talk to about it. So it has some fond memories. However, I'm not gonna pick it up and read it again. I also feel tricked because none of her other books are as good as this one. The next set, that's I think the only just general fictional standalone. The next set are my Book of the Month books that I will be getting rid of. I do tend to get rid of these often. The longer they sit on my bookshelves, the longer I realize I don't want to have them. Anna K by Jenny Lee. You guys know how I feel about contemporaries and you know how I feel about romances. This is both of those things, but I liked it because it was a retelling. I liked it because it was a retelling of a classic book that I had never read before. But it's a contemporary love story and I'm never going to pick it back up. Sumonk Kid and the Book of Longings. This is about Jesus' wife. It's a retelling in which Jesus has a female feminist wife. Female? I don't know. Is Jesus gay? She's really interesting. She really likes to write, which women are not supposed to do. Again, good book. It's not my thing. It's historical fiction and contemporary, I guess. That's not my thing. It lived on my bookshelf for a long time because I liked the cover and I thought it was an okay book, but do I want to go into the new year owning it? No. Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. By the time I got this in my Book of the Month box, I had concluded I was canceling Book of the Month because I was tired of them suggesting books for me or only having options that I did not care about. It was only like contemporary, it was only like romance, there was not enough like horror thriller, and then they got rid of Book of the Month YA, and so it was kind of like, what's the point? So due to that, this was probably the last book that I got. It wasn't a bad book, but again, contemporary. Interesting. Very interesting, but I own the audiobook. So if I happen to decide that I want to read it again, I'll probably listen to it. So just like some of the other ones, I'm not interested in carrying this into the new year with me. And then this book, I only have the cover because my mother is currently borrowing the book. This is the only sapphic book that I will be unhauling, and it's Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I actually got to see her speak at the Texas Women's Conference. We were doing virtual, and she was amazing, and I like her writing a lot. However, the formatting of this is not the kind of books that I really like to read, and admittedly I only picked this up because it had a sapphic character in it. When I went into BookTube, I had never even heard of the term sapphic books, and so I was just snatching up as many books with identities that felt similar to mine. Because I didn't get that experience when I was younger, and so I really was just, if it said sapphic, I was going to read it. Because it felt like there weren't a lot of options, but now there is considerably more options, and I'm really excited about that, and I love that. That means I get to be more selective about which sapphic books I buy and which sapphic books I own, so that's why I'll be saying goodbye to this book, especially because it wasn't inherently a, like, sapphic book, I guess. The main character was sapphic, but the book was not about that, nor was there a focus on that really. And it was a good book. Again, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. I lent it out to my mom. I'm probably gonna lend it out to my baby cousin before I get rid of it, because I think that it's a good book and it's a really good story to read, but it's not something I'm planning on keeping on my shelves. So that's my big unhaul of 2020. I don't generally get rid of this many books, but I really looked at my bookshelves and was like, there's a lot of stuff on here that I'm not interested in taking with me into 2021, and especially taking into my new home that I'll be moving into. So I hope that you guys are having a great day and that you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, I'm sorry. But if you did, great. I will see you guys next time, I hope. And don't forget to like and subscribe and share. The link's down below. There won't be one about any of these books since I will be unhauling them, but there will be links down below to my socials and all of that kind of thing, so don't forget to click on those and check them out and look at me yell at things on Twitter or post overly staged pictures on Instagram. You know, whatever's your cup of tea. I'll see you later. Thanks, bye!